But unfinished business.
I still have my questions about the country club.
What about it?
Well, I asked a bunch of questions, and you guys
I thought
said
we
you were going to...
satisfied that last time.
Actually, last time we said we'll talk about it at the next meeting because it was a
What did we
monstrously...
say we would talk about at the next meeting?
The country club.
We talked about it all last meeting.
Right, but I had a list of questions for you guys that you said you were going to have answers to.
Such as?
Okay, so there's about 6 of them. Knox County Community Development Corporation owns the building at the Edina City Lake, which is once the golf club's clubhouse.
No, they don't own the building.
Do you, the Edina City Council, agree that the building or buildings built by the golf club now belong to KCCDC?
No, we settled that last time. Was you here?
I was here, but we didn't.
Yeah, he explained all that. John did.
He explained it, but none of these questions were
The
answered.
city owns the building.
Okay. When KCCDC bought the property of the golf club, were they buying the buildings or just the contents of the buildings?
They just
You
settled the
you
debt.
didn't listen to John last month.
Okay, here's another one. Do you, the Edina City Council, have any say in what happens to the buildings and who occupies
Yes.
them? Do you have a contract or lease to KCCDC for the use of the buildings,
No.
parking area, and grounds? Why or why not?
We don't need one.
Okay, have you seen a contract between the city and the golf club?
No.
Is that dissolved?
None of the city council has seen the contract?
Is
Okay.
that dissolved, the contract for the golf?
Yeah, it's over. Just there, but there is a part in it that says, you know, everything goes back to the city. And then,
The city's willing to allow KCCDC, however you say that. That's too many. The
KCCDC, that's
development,
right.
Yeah, to use that. And if we think they're doing wrong, then we'll step in, but what they did was settle the debt, and they're using it, and we're allowing them to use it.
With no contracts.
With no contract, but we are the owners. The city is the owners.
Okay,
And
that's what I'll
that's
put
in a
in.
nutshell. There's no contract other than, I suppose, what John
No,
Is
there's
there a problem?
and the council doesn't see a problem with it.
Do you see a problem? Do you have a problem?
I don't really see any problem, me personally. The only thing that kind of like sparked my antenna over the last couple of months was when someone came out and said that people were trying to open a restaurant out there. And the only question I had was, well, then why isn't there a restaurant out there? And I get that with the tax thing, I get that KCCDC, you know, is keeping not asking for rent from the church and to keep from having to pay taxes on the property. But still, that would be like the only thing that really raised my antenna is this fair to other people who have approached about the use of the building?
Who has approached about the use of the building?
Well, it's been my understanding that a couple people asked about turning it into a restaurant.
Nobody's ever contacted me about doing
So
Okay.
maybe you got bad information.
Well, maybe I
had
did.
one gal contact me at one point about a restaurant, but let me tell you a couple things about the restaurant business. If you want to fail in business, the easiest way to do it is to open a restaurant. There's like a 98% failure rate for restaurants. They're notoriously hard to operate. And you know, I don't know. We've had experience with restaurants in the past that hasn't been good. You know, and I can remember the 4 people trying to run the Arrowhead. You know, how many years was the Arrowhead down there under different management? You know, and here's an established location right across from the motel, and you know they couldn't you know, that kept.
Yeah, I've
people
seen
kept
a lot go
going out
up
of
and come
business and going
down
broke
just in
and-
our short, just in the time that we've been here. I've seen quite a few go up, come down. But really, that was the question. And the reason I ask these questions is because, as you know, people ask me questions, and when I don't know the answer,
I'm sure they do ask you
then I
questions.
forward those questions on to the people who do. That's all.
But having worked in the kitchen out there, having cooked out there, and having played waiter while the country club was there, you know, we did never come close to making ends meet. The kitchen's not big enough. The safety people, you know, they looked at like that range hood, you know, which looks to me like a perfectly good range hood, but no, you really need a whole new range hood with a whole new fire suppression system. You need like a $5,000 or $6,000 range hood if you're gonna open a restaurant out there, and it's still, the kitchen's too small, there's not enough seating for when, you know, you gotta have seats for when the big rush hits, and the bathrooms aren't
That
set up
good. I
you
know they're not that
not
good.
handicapped accessible, and there's just a bazillion problems as far as running a restaurant out there. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. You know, I'm sorry if I didn't bring anybody's wishes before the entire council or community development council, so they could say the whole same thing, that they didn't want any part of it. But that's kind of it as far as the restaurant. I don't think there's any way, if you started with $1 million, that, you know, you can
Yeah.
make that thing fly. Maybe
You'd
I'm
wind
too
up without a
pessimistic.
restaurant and broke.
What's that?
You'd wind up without a restaurant and broke.
Yeah. So just
I mean,
how many years would it
98%
take?
of the time, you know, and nobody realizes that a restaurant business, it takes 20 hours a day by the owners, and that's the only way it'll ever be successful. And it's just, you know, it always sounds good because somebody thinks they can cook something that everybody really likes, but it's just not that way.
I don't think
And,
though,
and again, Echo, when this was all done, it was presented to the community development. Don't put that camera on me. I'm gonna move up here then. If I want to be on camera, I'd come up here, okay?
See, then
Now
what's your
the-
explanation?
We're in a public meeting.
When we bought it, well, they can hear me.
Okay.
When we bought it, they told us that the buildings belonged to the country club, and so they were going to sell them to us so they had money to pay their bills, okay? So we bought them. When we bought them, the county offices said, well, they're registered, they're licensed to the country club as personal property. So said, if you bought those buildings, and they gave us a bill of sale for those buildings, if you bought those buildings, then you need to register, you know, the purchase of those. So we registered them as personal property, just as the bill of sale said that they were, and as the country club had registered them with the county, okay? Now then, with looking at the lease and all of that stuff, it looks like the city retains the ownership of those buildings due to the lease. What I said at the last
Well,
meeting
due to the
was,
lease, however, the bill of sale, I mean, the actual contract and the bill of sale somewhat contradict each other. And in fact, if you guys haven't looked at these, maybe you want to now.
I
This
don't
is the
want
contract
to,
between,
Echo, I don't want to.
Well, that's you, Judge
Okay,
Alberti, but
but
maybe these guys
why do
do.
we wanna look at
And this
these?
is the bill of sale.
Echo,
saying they
tell me
actually did
why,
have the bill of
Echo,
sale.
please tell me why we want to look at these.
Because you're the city council, you're in charge of
You're
all your city
asking a
business.
legal
I've
question,
seen
right?
it.
Personal
I've read it.
property, real estate,
I'm not asking
We're
about
not-
personal property and real estate. I'm asking you guys, the city council, to pay
to
attention to
interpret
city
a
business.
contract.
I'm asking you to pay attention to the city.
In what
business of the city.
respect? In what respect does this affect our business?
Well, you are the keepers of the city business of the city property. This is
Okay,
part of
but
it.
what business
Don't you think
is
it's
this?
important to know about what's going on with it?
Does
Don't you
it
think that's
matter
important for you to
I think
know?
if we
Does-
Well,
own
I live
that?
here, I'm a taxpayer, and it matters to me.
I think they do know what's going on with it.
I'm a voter, it matters to me.
But like I said
And I'm
last
sure there's a
meeting,
lot of other
Echo.
voters that it matters to
Okay,
too.
let me tell you what. The contract says, when it's no longer used as a country club, it reverts to the city. It doesn't
The
matter.
contract says that.
Shut up and listen, okay?
Wow. I will
I'm
listen.
used to people listening to me, and I expect you to do the same thing. Don't ask me questions and then interrupt me, okay?
I'm listening.
Okay. The contract says, when it's no longer used as a country club, it reverts to the city.
Correct.
Okay. It doesn't matter, the country club transferred ownership of their personal property, the buildings, to the whatever.
Community
To the
Relations.
KCCDC.
But at that point, it was no longer used as a country club, so it all reverts to the city.
Okay.
End of story.
and even though the Community Development Corporation did not understand that at the time of the transaction, looking at the contract, that's the way the contract reads.
Well, and in the bill of sale, you did get the building.
But
But the
That-
contract
that wasn't legal.
overrides it all. I mean, you're not following.
the bill of sale was not even a legal document at that point in time because of the contract. We didn't know it when we took the bill of sale. We went ahead and did everything that everybody was asking us to do. But like I said last month at this meeting, the Community Development Corporation's position is that we are willing to do whatever it takes to maintain those buildings, and we are currently spending another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on those buildings to help the city until the city decides what they want to happen to the lake development, which may be in 3 months, which may be in 3 years or 30 years. But we're gonna hold on to it, we'll take care of it, they know what's going on with it, they own, with all of that, if they don't like what we're doing, all they have to do is say, we don't like it, and we will give it back to them. We will walk away from it. We're doing this so that the city doesn't have that financial burden on them. And we've spent $30,000 plus the purchase price, so we've spent $50,000 on it. But we thought it was a building that was worth the effort rather than letting it fall down, which I think the city was probably in a position where they weren't gonna put that money in it.
It would have ended up falling down.
It would have fallen down. So, like I said last month, if the city doesn't like the way we're doing it, if the citizens don't like the way we're doing it, then they can have it. We'll give it to them after we'll have to call a special board meeting, we'll pass a vote, and we'll have the minutes read that all of that stuff now reverts 100% to the city. They don't have to pay us anything. We'll give it to them gratis, because we don't legally own it. But we knew we didn't own the land when we bought it, but we thought the buildings were ours, and so we were accepting the responsibility of taking care of them. Okay?
Okay.
But right now, the contract does say that everything reverts back to the city. I got a copy of it from Margaret, but I had not seen the contract. Okay?
Thanks, John.
That's good.
Okay,
Everything okay?
Yeah, I think I got enough for
Okay.
that. Thank you. Questions answered.
thank you very much. New business, Alderman's comments. Motion to adjourn.
There is a
Oh.
regional planning.
Before we-
Budget pamphlets, and I gave them a copy, and you just need to let me know.
Fall general
if you're
membership
going.
meeting, doors open at 5:30 PM, meal at 6 PM, meeting at 6:30 PM, up at Memphis at the BFW. Luann Rongi, the area specialist for rural development. Our friend Luann will be the guest speaker, so that's great.
And let me know by Friday, this Friday, I
That is
guess.
Friday. Put
If you're
Sherry- put
going.
Sherry and I
You
down.
and Sharon, okay.
Now the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Wait. Had a motion to adjourn from Mr. Strange and seconded by Ms. Edwards. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Goes to Margaret.
Yeah, or
Where we get this?
All those opposed, same sign. All those
Peggy would want
abstaining, same sign.
to put it in the
The
budget.
meeting is adjourned.